Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, beats me. I can't even find the on-ramp for life. Must be covered with snow.
Well, everything is covered in snow because yesterday, which was Friday, we're recording this on a Saturday, everybody in Minnesota was pretending they were on WCCO radio. Oh no! A horrible snowstorm is coming!
Snow. And we got to admit, we're in the cities, and it's not bad in the cities. But other places, like in outlying Minnesota, where you don't have buildings, it's whiteout. I mean, we got, I think, maybe like 8 inches of snow here, which again, for some of you down south, you're going, holy crap. We're like, no, it was nothing really.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was coming, had everything planned. I had my box of comics, had my, made sure my satellite dish didn't get covered with snow. But for some of the outlying areas, like up north where they got much more snow, and, like today, everything's pretty much open. Side streets get a little tricky, but the wind chill is deadly. If you're outside about 6-7 minutes, you get frostbite. What do we do in Minnesota? Tell them what we do in Minnesota there, Hawk. Or Cory.
Oh, well, for me, it has to get below zero before I button my coat.
It's not even the temp. I'm talking the wind chill.
Well, the wind chill, you just make sure you got gloves and a hat and a coat on.
Tell them, Hawk. That's the thing. You cover up, It's not like, hey, I think I'll go see, holy cow, I guess I should have put on more than just a T-shirt. So, yeah, it's livable. And then, like they said, down south, where it's nothing but flat land, and when the wind picks up snow, it just blows for like hours and miles. Just stay home. That's kind of what I did. I got in once Holly was in and Chris was home. I was like, okay, we're in. We're not going anywhere. And today there was actually a comic show somewhere in town, and I'm a little interested whether it got pulled off because I haven't heard from people that allegedly were going.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, if they even had it. I haven't seen anything that was closed. I haven't seen anything that was open. Usually you get something on Facebook, hey, look what I found. Hey, we're here. Come on by. But really, I didn't hear anything about it. And I was going to go. I got money burning a hole in my pocket. It's been a while since I've been to a con, because really, we're just all waiting for MSP SpringCon 2020, May 16th and May 17th. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday. Cory knows 100,000 feet of comic book mayhem. And you can go to the website, but, everything's in the planning stage. I know a lot of the guys and gals are busy behind the scenes trying to get things lined up, but nothing to announce yet. They're not taking dealer apps yet. Their tickets probably won't be available until April 1st. But when it happens, I'll tell about it here. So I'm all ready. I'm ready to hit. I mean, I'm mobile. I got 4-wheel drive. I got new tires. I got a handicap sticker. I got my cane. I can walk. But I decided not to go. And like I said, I've sent out a few feelers. I haven't heard from anybody if the show went on. So I figured it would have been a good day to do a show. Not for a dealer. There was a reason why our friend Nick never did shows during the winter time. I don't know if you were with us at the time, Cory. You remember the one time we had the show, it got pushed back to November?
Oh, yeah.
And what happened?
No one showed.
And it snowed.
Yeah.
And the reason they kept moving it was because they didn't want to do it during this weekend because it was a show here, or they want to do it there. And finally, I think the boys just decided for FallCon, you know what, we're doing it this weekend. Yeah, New York has their big show. So we're not going to get any A-list guests, but we have fun. So how did you said you went to work during the snow?
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk more about it in Freaking, but at the group home job, I went in Thursday night and I had everything I needed because, okay, I was doing an overnight Thursday night, an office job Friday day, group home Friday night, and then I was at a group home where the overnight staff has called in on Friday nights the last couple of weeks, and I've had to stay. So I literally had 2 days worth of clothing in the car in case, they did the snow is terrible and I can't make it. I was out on the freeway a lot. They kept the freeways perfectly fine. The cold doesn't bother me as long as I don't stay out in it very long. And that's one of the secrets about living in Minnesota. If you're someone who loves the cold and the snow, you can be out in it. They've got, you can go to Target and get really good warm clothing because, it's Minnesota and Target's in Minnesota. Or, I have gloves I keep in the car. I have a hat I keep in the car because when you first start up the car, it takes a while to warm up. But, it's okay. I'm parking, I'm going into a building. Parking, I'm going into a building. Parking, going into a building. So, and then today I met a friend for lunch, and the only thing was that, boy, the snow itself, snow, but drizzle after snow. And then it got cold. So my car covered in a nice sheen of ice that took quite a while to scrape and melt off.
Yeah.
So it might be a good idea for you to stay home today.
Well, Chris mentioned that too, because yesterday I moved my truck around back to park in our little driveway so that when I move, there's no snow. It's all on the truck. Well, I cleared the windshield so I could see. Well, that little drizzle fell onto the windshield, and she wasn't able to scrape it off. I do have something in the back of the truck where it's one of those alcohol sprays where it will melt the snow, but I'm not going anywhere. So she moved it. I mean, kudos to my wife because she did all the shoveling because of my hip. Although I probably could have done something. I've got one of those S shovels where you don't have to bend over.
Yeah.
And I probably could have used the exercise. Hey, I got a quick note from somebody who said they did not go to the con. Let me just respond.
Well, if we're going to talk notes.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of notes on previews.
Well, I do too. It's a little late, but, you still got time to call your local comic store, or like in Cory and my case, we do ours through the discount comic book service.
And this was a weird bit of a month. I've got a lot to talk about that may not actually be the comics, but so grab your previews. It's the January 2020 previews.
Got it.
On the cover is a comic. Wait.
Don't forget the two supplements, Marvel and DC, because they're separate.
Yes. They are both free if you buy previews. Marvel actually will sell theirs if you don't want to buy previews. If you're a Marvel zombie and just want to buy your Marvel, if you buy it with previews, it's free. Buy it on your own, it's $1.25. And
you can go online and do it as well for you fancy kids that don't astound the physical media. But we shouldn't deride too hard because they're the ones probably listening to our podcast. So.
And Joe, did you also know when you buy previews, you actually get a free digital code so that you can peruse your previews on an app?
Really?
Yes. If you go to what page? The order sheet that's inside the previews. It looks like it's page 17. You'll see your free previews digital edition code. Here's the thing: I've never got it to work.
I've never tried it, but it's there.
Yeah, but with DCB service, you can download previews. You can download the Marvel, the DC, the whole previews, and a huge ordering form, huge monster ordering form, and it's tons and tons and tons of stuff in this month's previews. So we ought to get started.
Which is funny because I didn't see. Well, you'll find out as we get through because I'm getting to be a fussy picky, MF, when it comes to previews. So yeah, let's start. And for those of you that want to play along, we just start at the beginning, and of course, number one on our list is the featured image. Now, for image, I've got a couple things. Right away on page 50, which is their first one, they have one called Decorum, which is from Jonathan Hickman. Again, Hickman is one of these guys who I'm putting him in the exalted category, whereas if he wrote the phone book, I would probably read it. The only thing with Hickman is you'd have to read it all the way to the end to understand what the hell he's writing about, because he doesn't give away everything in the first issue. The name of the book is Decorum, and I'm just going to read right along. There are many assassins in the known universe. This is the story of the most well-mannered one. Because as you know, manners are a sensitive awareness of the feelings of others. If you have that awareness, you have good manners, no matter what knife you use. And of course, their big thing is that, he's doing the X-Men now, so tie in there. I am very, very interested in this. They do give a couple samples of the artwork, which looks really nice. I am not going to buy this as a series, though. I will probably wait for the graphic novel.
Same here.
My experience reading Hickman, unless you're really, really paying attention and have good recall, which I don't, you're going to miss something between issues 1 and 2. And again, when I read the Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, I loved it. It was brilliant. It led up to the Secret Wars. I mean, we geeked about it on past podcasts, but I truly didn't appreciate it till I had all the issues lined down and read them, from the beginning all the way up to Secret Wars, because there was so much that I missed. I sold most of my issues. I do have them in the Omnibus form, and I'm waiting for Secret Wars Omnibus out there. Anyways, that's my first pick. Cory, what do you got?
Well, they also, in the pitch for Decorum, they list all of his other books he has done for Image. So if you've missed any of those, they are resolicited this month.
That's a big month for this. You'll see as you go. I'll mention on a few of them. There's a lot of resolicitations here. So, they're pushing. They may not be pushing a lot of new product, but they're definitely pushing some of the older stuff, things that you can catch up on. Things that are either, if they're not in your local comic store, you can probably pre-order them, and they'll probably get them to you within a couple weeks or so.
Let's see. What was I looking at in Image? Well, there's one that I don't know if I will pick up, but I do find it interesting, and that is Outer Darkness Chew crossover, with the creators of Chew working on it. Now, for me, Chew came to a definite ending, and the fact that
which I haven't read yet, so you're usually good for not spoiling things.
But I'm kind of surprised that, okay, we're gonna go back to that story, and I wonder if it's to kind of give this Outer Darkness book by Layman sales bump.
Does it sound like it occurs after the end of Chew, or is it like something that was shoehorned while the series was still going?
It doesn't say. It gives a description of what Tony Chew does. The lead character in Outer Darkness is a 28th century starship captain. So
it could be like they did with Hitman JLA.
Yeah.
Hitman ended, but then they went back, revisited the character, and they had an interesting framing sequence to make it, this is what's going on, but this is a story that happened back when he was still Hitman.
Yeah. So I'm a little confused by how they're going to be, but it's a 3-issue series. That means if they do issue it as a trade paperback, which they will, it's going to be a really slim volume. If they're trying to get people interested in the new series, this is a really good way to do it. I also want to point out on page 74, I'm going to start calling things like this the reaction to the fact that 5 million copies of the new Dogman graphic novel were printed. And for those of you who don't know Dogman, that means you're not really paying attention to the whole comics market. Dogman is by the same guy who created Captain Underpants in the 90s, and he is a monster seller. And so what Image has done is right here, they have middle grade readers hooked on graphic novels. Here's all of the Image young adult novels that are available. I found that really interesting that they have this as an ad there.
Absolutely. I thought it was brilliant. If I was a retailer, I would be working to set up a section like this in my store. And I'm talking like the hot comics, not crazy comics would have been a little tough. Cory can attest, and we've talked to, we were on graphic novels way before they were the thing to have, and they were a major part of our selling component. I think this is neat, and I also find it interesting. Retailers see order form for incentives. I would love to see what those incentives are. I know when Diamond would come to town and they'd visit, the guy I was an easy sell. He would just hand me the form and he would give me this, and I would probably, while he was enjoying a rat bastard root beer, I would run down and check off, okay, missing, need this, have it, just to make sure we have it. Yeah, this is great. I'm going to go one page beyond where I was before with Decorum, because there's a mini series on page 54, and I think it's Mirka and Dolfo's Mercy, a 6-issue mini series, and it says, when the placid mining village of Woodsburg is disturbed by a series of brutal murders, the settlement is in turmoil. And as the first snow covers the chaos in a white blanket, a mysterious woman in black arrives, eliciting a totally different kind of unrest. But who is Lady Helene really, and what's her secret agenda? What got me on this was I looked at the art. We gave 3 pages of art, which is really nice, and it's a mini-series. So I figure I'm always a sucker for a mini-series, especially if I don't want to jump and invest in something that could go on for God knows how long. So I've got that down on my recommendation list.
That was it for me for Image, because it's they have all of their new stuff up front, then they follow it by the new trade paperbacks, and then their ongoing series. And I think sometime in February we should probably go through and do that special yearly episode of what do we buy as regular series
stuff. Because we're just talking about things we see, and we're always open for people to send us their tidbits as in terms of like, hey, what do you read that we may not have mentioned? So, matter of fact, one of them I'm going to mention right now. I talked about it a couple podcasts back. Purdy, Volume 2 hardcover by was it Clickly? And I love the first volume. And I remember I talked with him because I actually saw him at one of the toy shows that I inhabited, and he was questioning as to when the graphic novel's been done. He's just waiting for Image to solicit for it. Well, they did. It's advance solicited to come out in June. So talk to your retailers and get your order in now. Purdy was just fascinating. It's about a character. She comes out of jail. She's I don't even know how to explain her. I mean, she's lusty. She lives life. She's obviously got a take going on, and she's trying to get her daughter, who's kind of put the past behind her and living a straight life. Well, Purdy comes to town, and from there, that's Volume 1, which is available now. Volume 2, Purdy desperately needs her daughter to help pull a heist so they can get the old posse, that's capital letters, the old posse, back together. Problem is, Petunia, the daughter, wants nothing to do with her mother, Purdy. She just wants to get rid of Purdy before she finds out that Petunia was responsible for putting her own mother away in the prison for 15 years. And, of course, the proverbial house manure hits the wagon wheels this volume. No turning back, sex, language, the violence to make the Wild Bunch blush. So I highly recommend pre-ordering this one. Let your comic store know it's there. Purdy Volume 1 is out. So hopefully they have a copy open so you can at least browse through it, because I really recommend it. There's a couple. No, go ahead.
Is this a Western?
It is.
Okay. Because it looks like a Western from the cover, but it doesn't mention any of that in the description.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'll have to put if I see him at the con, I'll mention that to him because I know there's a couple shows coming up. There's a couple of things I want to point out. They're not things I'm going to order, but things that because it's kind of a light month for Image. On page 91, there's a series called Undiscovered Country, and if you're interested in that, apparently New Republic Pictures, after a big bidding war, has gotten what they call potential franchise development. And it sounds like, I don't know if this is part of the deal or may not be, but I got to tell you, for back issues, people go nuts when something gets solicited and is being developed into a movie. So if you want to get on the ground floor, I don't know, go pick up some of Scott Snyder's and Charles Soule's Undiscovered Country. For me, there's a couple, I haven't decided if I'm buying or not, but these are just covers that crack me up. And just quickly on page 63, cover B of Maneaters, Tomorrow's Belong to You. I just love that cover. It's like a book. And if you jump onto page 79, Ice Cream Man, cover A. Ice Cream Man, Haunting for Beginners, How to Be a True Blue Apparition. I mean, there are times I don't do this a lot because, I mean, comics can get a little pricey and I got a lot of things I want to read, but just the cover alone cracks me up. And I absolutely love those two covers. On to Dark Horse.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
All right. For me, let's see, what do we got here?
Well, the first book they have, X-Ray Robot.
Oh, yeah.
By Mike Allred. I'm going to buy this as a collected edition, but oh man, does this look fun.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Max is a family man seeking a more interesting life. When conducting a new experiment at work, the fabric of his reality is torn before his eyes. Robotic figure appears, claiming to be his 277-year-old self. The robot is also able to X-ray multiple dimensions and battles a nihilistic entity from another dimension who wants to take all life to its pre-Big Bang status. Come on, it's Mike Allred. It's going to be fun. It's going to be well drawn.
And look at the variant cover. I mean, it's not by Mike Allred, it's by Chris Samney. I love that cover.
I am all over that one.
Yeah, that is a brilliant cover.
Based on the cover art for a Madness album.
Wow. I got nothing from Image. I'm already way ahead of myself. I got nothing Dark Horse that is new. A couple of things that I am buying. Well, I mean, things that I've bought before, like on page 99, American Gods Volume 3. I'm buying this as hardcovers because I enjoy it just as a big hardcover. I've enjoyed American Gods, the book. This is my way of enjoying the series. I don't have, what's the show on?
Stars.
Yeah, I don't have Stars, so I can't watch it that way. But American Gods is just a lot of fun. Across from it's another one I point out. They're doing Neil Gaiman Library Volume 1. If you haven't bought the $14 hardcovers that they've released, they're showing a page out of the How to Talk to Girls at Parties, which I absolutely loved and raved about. But this is a great way to jump on board. A little pricey at $50, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Four. Yeah, 4. So 4 by 15. You're coming out ahead. Plus a nice hardcover volume. A couple other things to point out. I'm not a Minecraft person, but if you are, somebody that is. On page 100, it's a trade paperback. They have a couple. Dark Horse does a couple other ones. On page 106, Scary Godmother Omnibus.
Yes.
Again, it's on I have the originals, but nothing gets me better than having it in one volume, so I don't have to go crazy looking for them. Highly recommended for anybody who enjoyed Sandman. My daughters adored this series. Across the page is another one I game about when it comes out. Empowered Omnibus, Volume 1, which has the first 3. I collect these as the volumes come out. But Adam Warren draws beautifully. The I just read off it. It says, it's side-achingly funny. On page 108, again, Luther Arkwright trade paperback. I have the original comics. Do I want to buy it in a single paperback edition? Maybe, but
Well,
again,
here's the thing about it. It's not just the original Luther Arkwright series. It's also the sequel, Heart of Empire, all in one volume.
And I have these all in comic form, and I'm getting to the point where I've been blowing out a lot of my comics and trading them to trade paperbacks and graphic novels, but my house is starting to lean in one direction because I've got I mean, yeah, sure, my friends are like, we're not going to move your comic collection, so get rid of it before you move again. Yeah, well, guess what? I replaced it all with omnibuses and graphic novels. So I've blathered a lot because there's a lot of things that while I may not be buying them, I'm excited about. Anything else in Dark Horse, Cory, that you're gaming for?
You actually pointed out all the ones that I was going to point out. I will point out again that Dark Horse is now making the vast majority of its money off its video game art books. And they've got on page 124 and 125 a listing of most of the ones they do. So if you are into that sort of thing, I have bought the Final Fantasy books, and they are gorgeous. Tons and tons of original art, some of the early, the hand drawings, and then the early computer drawings, and then in-game stuff, and then a lot of information about how it came to be, the making of the game. It's kind of a DVD extra for a video game. So if there's a game in here that you are a big fan of, like me with Final Fantasy, I'm actually looking at that Wolfenstein 2 New Colossus because I love the Wolfenstein games. Joe, do you know what Wolfenstein is?
Was it like a shoot 'em up point of view game from years ago?
It was the one that came out before Doom.
Yeah.
Where you are trapped in a castle
full of Germans.
Germany.
Yeah.
And you find out that the Germans are all involved in dark magic, and that's basically it's first-person shooter. They've rebooted it a couple of times. The reboots are really well done, and this is a book about the latest reboot version. And now we get to DC. And boy, do I have a lot to say about DC.
All right. You know what? I don't. But I will. I've only got one thing new and literally no graphic novels, except one that I wanted to point out. So, but a lot of times what I do, folks, is I sit back and I listen to what Cory has to say because sometimes he'll catch something that I may have overlooked and I get excited and write it down. So this is, since I blathered on and on so much about the first two, the only thing I'm really looking forward to that's brand new is the Robin 80th anniversary 100-page super spectacular. I looked at the creator. I wasn't going to buy it because I'm not big on $10 comic books. It is a one-shot, so that's kind of a plus. But then I looked at some of the names involved: Marv Wolfman, Chuck Dixon, Devin Grayson, Judd Winnick, and then the artist. Miller. Oh yeah, getting the artist. And then the question is, which cover am I going to buy? And I think DC does these as you can buy any of these. So I'm going to decide, do I want to buy the Frank Miller or go for the Jim Lee, Scott Williams one? And they're all different decades. And as much as I like to get them all, I'm going to maybe just pick the one so I can read the story and then hope next time we go to like a Hot Comics Jordan that they have them there for 75% off so I can pick them all up. But that's the only thing DC new that I'm interested in. I'm buying a lot of DC, but I'm going to sit back now and listen to my bud Cory. Tempt me, Mr. Strode. What did I miss that I should have put on my list?
Well, Strange Adventures is a 12-issue miniseries by Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and it's going to be a dual book. It's going to be about both Adam Strange and Mr. Terrific. And Tom King's 12-issue series, like Vision, Omega Men, was Mr. Miracle have all been amazing. The fact that he's going to be working with Adam Strange is exciting. Again, this one I'm buying is I'm actually going to wait because they've done the thing with his stuff where it's, oh, here's a trade paperback. Then a few months later, oh, here's a deluxe hardcover. So I'll be.
Yeah, I'm same way. I'm excited about it, but I'm going to wait. I'm not going to get okay, here's 1 to 6 paperback. Here's the other one. I want it in one deluxe edition.
They are going back to legacy numbering. Gosh, I wonder where they got that idea from.
I'm shocked, I tell you.
On Flash and Wonder Woman. It looks like fewer and fewer books are going to be the twice a month.
Thank you.
And also fewer and fewer books actually being published. The Dreaming, they solicit issue 19. They have let us know that issue 20 is the last issue of that. So some of the Sandman universe starting to wind down, it looks like, due to sales. Their facsimile editions are Brave and the Bold 28, which is the first Justice League. Detectives 38, which is the first Robin.
Which might be a fun one to look at.
Yeah, that one I might actually pick up. Let's see, Mystery in Space, the first Adam Strange. In the 100-page Giants, it's Aquaman, Superman, Titans, and From Beyond the Unknown. So one of the things I like about the 100-page Giants is that they are using some of the older names of old series. The Dollar Comics, I think Marvel does a better job with their Dollar Comics because a lot of the Dollar Comics that DC's putting out is like, yeah, this just came out.
And if you're good, you might be able to find it in a quarter box somewhere.
Pretty much, yeah. And then let's go to the trade paperbacks and hardcovers, and it's the wimpiest section in months.
Yeah.
And they've been getting wimpier and wimpier. And one of the things that Dan DiDio said in a recent interview, he went over about how, we solicit these big books and orders don't come in and they're not enough for him to actually make a profit. He also talked about how they don't want to put numbering on the jackets anymore because the first one sells really well and then they progressively sell worse as the numbers get larger. They need to stop thinking about the books the same way they think about periodicals.
Thank you.
The books sell over a longer period. The reason Marvel did so poorly in trade paperbacks, DC ate their lunch, which is one of the reasons why the editor-in-chief of the 90s got fired and they hired Joe Quesada. Gosh, I wonder who that editor-in-chief was. But they treated the trade paperbacks and hardcovers like periodicals. Well, if it doesn't sell the first week, we got to dump them, got to get rid of them. That's not how books work. DC used to know that. I am at the last Cap City conference. They had somebody from DC there, even though DC had gone purely with Diamond at the time. But I actually talked with them a bit about how their hardcovers work. And they said, yeah, we print these archives. We know they're not going to sell thousands of copies. The first month, they sell a few hundred copies. The next month, they sell a few hundred copies. The next month, they sell a few hundred copies, and on and on and on. They've made a profit after a year, and then we have them in the warehouse, and they keep selling so that they're pure profit. After a year, it's just, there's no cost left other than storage. And, they're part of Time Warner. They had enough storage room as part of Time Warner. Now they don't. There are no omnibuses listed from DC at all. 2 of their books are resolicits of books that they said, oh, not enough people ordered it, so it won't be profitable. The ones I want to point out that I'm getting, first is DC First Issue Special, which reprints that entire run. DC First Issue Special was one of those attempts they had in the 70s to stem the tide of the sales erosion. Because it's like, well, it used to be that first issues didn't sell. Now first issues sell really well. So let's have a series that's all first issues.
I looked at this book and I thought, you know what? I had all those issues. I got rid of them on eBay. Why am I going to buy a graphic novel on these when I didn't even deem them worth keeping in the first place? And the only ones that were, I mean, they're fun reading. And it's the first Warlord, which again appeared in, I think I've got it in the showcase somewhere.
Yeah.
Some of the Kirby stuff was fun. Some of it I scratched my head on. So yeah, for $40, I was like, you know what? No.
But Joe, it's got the green team in it. It's got the first lady cop in it. Lady cop.
Yeah. I tell you what though, if you flip the page to page 80, no, 80 or 90, 80. Right there on the bottom is one that I'm very, very tempted to buy. Tales of the Batman, Steve Englehart hardcover. When I was reading around this time and these books came out, they were mind-blowing to me. Again, I was a Marvel boy, so for me to switch over into DC, the only problem is I never was able to read the full run. You know, I got the Hugo Strange. Was it Silver St. Clair was in here? Batman was dead. I think Hugo Strange was trying to take his place. Amazing stuff. And then, of course, when I came back, it's like, oh, I missed a few issues. So I never really gelled and got into it. I mean, I did luck out. I don't have a picture of Marshall Rogers holding the championship belt somewhere. I think I do. I got to go look for that. Don't ask. It's a different, it may be in a podcast this year. But this book, again, $50 hardcover, probably less online. You know, I could get by with just the soft cover. So I'm going to hedge my bets and wait that maybe a soft cover will come to be, you know, solicited and then canceled like a month later.
Well, if you look, it says this title was previously offered under a different title and cover price.
Yeah. And I didn't see anything canceled on my list, so I probably didn't order it the first time around. Same thing like across from it, Shazam, The World's Mightiest Mortal, Volume 2. I pretty much had these issues. I sold them. I kept number 1 because I did get it signed by C.C. Beck. I have a lot of stories behind that. But they just weren't good. And, you know, it's like if I didn't keep them in comic form, why would I want them in a $50 hardcover form? Maybe it's because, like I said, I've got so many graphic novels piled up here that just to get something that maybe I didn't keep in comic form, why do I want to buy it in hardcover?
Yeah.
But if I did, I would. And, of course, I'd have to buy number 1, which is offered again.
And I understand why they're doing it as a hardcover because, let's face it, there aren't going to be a lot of people who buy this stuff. But for me, these stories aren't good enough to be in a hardcover. These are a bunch of mediocre comics where they couldn't decide what they wanted to do with Captain Marvel. Do they want to have this type of stories in the 40s, or do they want to make him a modern superhero? And what they ended up doing was a mishmash of the two that just didn't work.
And Beck is even off it by this time.
Oh, yeah. Well, he wasn't happy with the scripts he was getting in the first issue.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to write it. You know what I remember most about C.C. Beck, other than your story about meeting him? Through the 80s, he had a column in the Comics Journal where he bitched about it. Was basically him coming out and yelling at the kids to get off his lawn. He hated every comic that was printed after 1950. He was your typical grumpy old man, and you could tell that he was unbelievably bitter about comics.
If you could see, if we ever did a live video of our podcast one of these days, you'd see me shaking my head right now.
Right above that is The New Gods by Gary Conway. The story behind this is almost better than the actual comic because I haven't read these. No, I haven't either. And I do recall reading it in, was it back issue? Yeah, it was back issue a couple months ago. And these stories aren't good. When Jeanette Kahn came in to run DC, basically they fired Carmine Infantino, and he was bitter about everything for the rest of his life too. Went over to Marvel and didn't give a shit, as you could tell by his art, that he just did not give a shit at all.
Well, you mean just because he was drawing Star Wars with a T?
Well, everything he drew. I heard stories that his layouts were even rougher than John Buscema's at the time. And John Buscema was on a ton of books, and they wanted him on more books. So Buscema would almost just do layouts. They were paying Carmine for pencils, and he was just doing layouts. And even if you look at it, you look at his stuff, and you could tell he did not give a shit at all. Because if you look at the stuff for Warren, where he was paid better, the art's 100 times better. But anyway, Jeanette Kahn came in, started looking over the sales records, looked at the New Gods and went, holy crap, why did you cancel this? This thing was selling great. Bring it back now. And Kirby had already left for Marvel, so Gary Conway was kind of their workhorse. He was the guy who brought it back. It didn't do that great, so they wrapped it up in... I think issue 20 was split in Adventure Comics. Basically, it's like, okay, it's being canceled, shove it in one of the anthology books. And then he wrapped up his whole story in the Justice League.
Which is where I first was exposed to New Gods. And I thought it was weird because they had built up Darkseid as this big threat, and he gets defeated by newcomer Firestorm with a quick trick of his... he was able to shoot the mega rays back by making a little tube that, picked it up and shot it back. And I was like, what? I thought Darkseid was a bad guy. I mean, it took, then whatever. Again, I in my opinion, this is if you got $50 to blow it. It's a lot like Shazam. Otherwise, go pick up that back issue from Tomorrow's. It's much more interesting to read because not only does it give a synopsis, but it gives, like you talk about, the behind the scenes of what's going on.
On the next page is my favorite Superman story of the last decade.
Oh.
Superman Up in the Sky by Tom King. This was in the Walmart books.
Oh, that's why I have no inkling of it.
Yes. What it is, Tom King and Andy Kubert answer the question, how far across the galaxy will Superman go to bring a single child home? Aliens have kidnapped a young girl from Metropolis, and Superman has to go across the universe to get her and bring her back. This is phenomenal stuff. And the final story, the 12th part of it, is my favorite Superman story, not by Alan Moore. It's that good. This is just a fantastic, fantastic run. And if Bendis ever releases his hold on Superman, Tom King should do it.
I will be probably picking up across on page 83, Superman, the Golden Age, Volume 5. Because I don't have enough money to buy the originals, and I do believe I have volumes 1 through 4. So, and they're fun to read. I mean, just because they're wacky, they don't have any continuity. Superman was a bit of a bastard. I don't know by number 5 if he's kind of mellowed out. By number 5,
it's all very, very mellowed out. It's very, okay. It's more like the TV show by this point from the 50s. And look at that cover. He's dropping bombs on the Japanazis.
The Nazis.
No, the Japanazis.
I hate Illinois Nazis. Cory, I have to admit I did kind of bend the truth that I'm not buying any graphic novels from DC.
Oh.
Not so much because they're ones that I've already talked about that I'm buying. And one of them we've passed already, The Green Lantern by Jeff Johns, book 3, because I have, in November 2018, I bought book 1, and in June 2019, I bought book 2, so I'm just going to continue on with that. And then, of course, on page 84 is Transmetropolitan book 3, which I have never read.
Really?
I have books 1 and 2 on my shelf. I'm going to buy 3, and I don't know how many I need to get them all, but I am really, really looking forward to reading these.
Let me take a look here. It's probably going to end up being 6 books.
Okay. So, and again, just to have them in that format. So again, these are books. I probably should mention them just because I did, like I said, 1 and 2 years ago. So no Joe Prize for that. I confess to my transgression.
And that's really about it. The smallest collection of trade paperbacks I think I've ever seen from DC.
Yeah, you're not even trying anymore, DC. IDW.
Yes, let me grab the big previews now.
Yeah, back to the big previews. While Cory's doing that, I got nothing new I'm buying. The only things I point out of interest, if you like Transformers, if you like Terminator, well, they're going to fight. Transformers versus Terminator. It takes place in 1984 when a deadly race of machines emerge from another time. Will a robotic guardian be able to protect the Earth from a dire future? Or will the T-800 fail in his mission to prevent the world from becoming a plaything to the Decepticons? Interesting.
Well, hold on. Transformers are like, a couple stories tall, right?
I don't know. I thought they ended it and restarted it.
But aren't the Transformer robots?
Oh, I see. I misunderstood what you said. Yeah, they are.
Why don't they just step on him?
Who knows? Maybe the 800 will be big. We don't know. Maybe Death's Head will come in and shrink him down. Or no, that was the Doctor that shrunk Death's Head down from. Because when he appeared in Transformers, he was originally, several stories tall like a Transformers until the Doctor put a shrinking ray on him. Oddly enough, Death's Head's never had the desire to go back up. But I'm confusing universes. But I'm not confused on page 132, Godzilla, Complete Rulers of Earth, Volume 1, which is it's close to an omnibus as they give. But if you like Godzilla, this was a pretty cool series. As I have it, I'm not getting it, but I do feel obliged to point it out.
It's the first 12 issues of that.
I know. And that's pretty good reading for $20. That's 280 pages. Anything else, IDW, float your boat?
Nothing jumped out at me because I don't see a Yo book this month.
No Yo.
How dare they? How dare they?
How dare you, sir?
How dare you? But yeah, no Yo book this month. Bunch of tie-in stuff that I am not interested in. And let's go on to Dynamite.
You want to go into Dynamite? Because Marvel's next, but Dynamite usually is pretty quick.
Okay.
Okay, Dynamite! Let's see. Let's go to page 170. I feel like a teacher. New York best-selling, award-winning F. Paul Wilson's first Repairman Jack original graphic novel. I have no idea about this property. I've never read the books. From the description of it, I actually may hunt a few of these graphic or his prose novels down because from him on page 171 they have an interview with Paul Wilson. He says, "I designed Jack as an anti-Jack born. No Black Ops training, not an ex-SEAL or ex-CIA, no connections to officialdom. In other words, no safety net. No one in the government he can call on. He has to rely on his own wits and his own network. Somewhat of an anarchist who's never filed a 1040 and lives totally off the grid. Much to his chagrin, he's been drafted into a cosmic tug of war where all humanity could become collateral damage." I found that description very, very intriguing because so many times when you hear about a character that's this type, whether it's the Punisher, the Exterminator, that somebody with a D, I can't remember. All these different guys, they were government ops, they were SEALs, they were whatever. I find it's interesting that this guy is none of those things. I've never read the books. The graphic novel, if I buy it, I will probably go for the signed copy at $40. But it's a original graphic novel for $24.99, and I think I will. I think I'm going to pick up on this. And there is some art shown on the next couple of pages, which I absolutely love. So, again, I always shout out kudos when you do stuff like that. Anything else for you, Mr. Strode?
On page 197, is the Jungle Girl Omnibus, which collects all 3 trade paperbacks of Frank Cho's Jungle Girl series. The other thing I want to point out is the scripter, co-writer, is Doug Murray, who most people would know from the first 40 or so issues of The Nam. And he's a writer who, I hope he's got an outside job, because, boy, you don't hear from him very much. But I really loved his run on The Nam back in the 80s. And, of course, Frank Cho drawing Jungle Girls in skimpy clothing. Hey. And it's, you know.
There is a theme going through these previews of art books, and you get into it more when you get outside the big guys. Somewhere in there, there's a Frank Cho art book.
Yes.
If you look at the beginning,
it's,
you can find it.
Frank Cho Ballpoint Beauties, which are all drawings he's done with just ballpoint pens.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the funds to buy just art books. I love them when I see them. But for all the comic books and graphic novels I want where I'm actually reading, I don't have the budget to just buy an art book where I can just enjoy the art. I wish I did. And, of course, if anybody out there wants to chime in and tell us about their art books, I mean, Cory, you mentioned the one earlier way back in Dark Horse. We'd love to hear from you. There are a couple things I want to point out as well. We're talking Omnibus. And again, I have the original, so I'm not buying them. But if you are prone to love Xena or Army of Darkness, they're doing an omnibus with everything in it, which
shocks me that they did that long a crossover.
Well, it was I think 3 different crossovers, if I recall. So you're talking probably 18 issues of books for $29.99. They were fun reading. But again, you got to love either of the properties to enjoy what's going on. Oh, speaking of covers to die for, cover A of The Death of Army of Darkness, where you have an Ash cutout mask. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you could buy one for $3.99, maybe buy 2, cut it out, or you could just spend $50 and get the limited edition version cover, so you don't have Army of Darkness on his forehead. Hey, it's your funds. You buy it how you want. There is one thing that Dynamite's doing, and I'm going to put a kudos on this with an asterisk. On all the, Dynamite's known for variant covers, and they're doing a couple, and I'm curious. I imagine they're pricey because they have these incentive covers where they're doing icon editions. In Red Sonja, they're doing one where they're doing previously published Adam Hughes and Michael Turner Red Sonja in a special format. And they're doing the same thing in Vampirilla, where you go forward. I think that's kind of a neat idea. I wouldn't even mind seeing like Marvel and DC doing that, especially, Dynamite's putting the women on it. Like in the Vampirilla, you got Mike Deodato Jr. and Julie Bell. I mean, come on, Julie Bell. But these are incentive covers, so I don't know how expensive they're going to be. And maybe by next week I'll have it in my Freaking or Geeking because I haven't looked up prices on these. But I thought that was an interesting idea. And, even if Marvel did it with I think they do that with some of it. Like they'll have a special Jack Kirby cover, but it's always a very, very expensive book. So way to recycle stuff, kids.
And now Marvel.
All right, everybody, put your big previews aside. Take out your little Marvel book, and again, I'm going to just do what I did with DC. There's one book that I'm very excited about, and the rest of them are all things I bought, and I didn't see any graphic novels. But of course, right away, page 1, Strange Academy. They are doing what I think X-Men, Spider-Man did with the X-Men, what Avengers Academy did with the Avengers. They're taking all these mystical beings that are untrained and wild and putting them in a school taught by some other Marvel characters. Well, you probably haven't heard of them. I mean, Brother Voodoo, Scarlet Witch, Magic, Hellstrom, Shaman. And the series looks good. What sold me on this idea is they gave us 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of previews. And that was enough to get me to go, yeah, I'm on board with this series. I usually am because I really like Doctor Strange, and you know, I don't know if he's going to be a presence in this book. I mean, he is in the previews. He makes a guest appearance. So, but this was enough to get me from the maybe pile to definite pile. The fact that you guys ran 4 pages of previews for me to look at. And I again, previews catalog is a monster to work with, but anytime you can give me a little something extra like that, that really made a difference. I have no idea which cover I'm getting, but I'll probably just go for the regular one since I don't have the funds to get those really cool variant covers like by Scott J. Campbell or Humberto Ramos, Scotty Young. Oh, look, I'm drooling already.
And the book is by Scotty Young and Humberto Ramos. Oh,
I know. So kudos.
They're giving Spider-Woman another book. Didn't they just do that after Secret Wars?
She's pregnant at the time.
Yeah. They're adding more X-Men books.
Wait a minute. If she was pregnant, does that mean there's a spider baby running around?
Why, yes, there is.
Is Terrence Creep going to have to get on Marvel's case and sue the Mighty Mouse?
No, because there was a Spider Baby movie back in the 60s.
Oh, okay, never mind. Darn, here I thought we could, kind of cuddle up to Terrence. I mean, he is cuddly, and maybe, ride his coattails to his millions. Well, back in the ring with you, laddie.
He should ride our coattails because we are a national treasure. New X-Men books.
I think they're making a 3rd movie of that, so maybe we'll get a cut of it this time.
New X-Men books, and Jonathan Hickman at a recent interview said you don't have to read all the X-Men books, just read the ones you like.
Which is what I'm doing.
That's very nice of him.
Yes. As much as I love the idea with the graphic novels where they have like every issue in a solid graphic novel, I'm just going to read the ones I like.
Oh, let's see what else.
Truly, something I did not know, where they're doing a facsimile editions with the first appearance of Wolverine, and they're telling me in Thor 229 for real had a glimpse of Wolverine before his first appearance. Is that for real, or is that just like the first Venom appearance? Yeah, he was supposed to be.
I don't know, because I've never heard that before.
While you talk, Cory, I'm going to go fire up the Kray 4000 and look on the old eBays to see if the prices reflect that.
It probably will now. Our first big crossover this year, Empire, is a crossover with the, it's the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and it's going to be dealing with the Kree Skrull War. That's stuff that came out of Incoming. So True Believers Month is a whole bunch of stuff that ties in with that, including the first start of the Kree Skrull War. Some other stuff, even all the way up to Elijah, who was their way of getting out of Human Torch marrying Alicia. No, it wasn't Alicia. It was a Skrull.
Silly Skrulls. You go squish now.
Marvel, which is a spin-off of Marvels. It's an anthology of stories by unique, exceptional talents, many of whom are doing Marvel characters for the first time. This issue has Alex Ross, Steve Rude. Upcoming issues will have Adam Hughes, Bill Sienkiewicz, Dan Barrington. There's an overarching story by Alex Ross. This is one that I'm going to be picking up as a trade paperback. But, Marvels.
I know. Oh, my Lord. I was so tempted to just jump on board, and I thought, nope, going to be strong on this one.
They're also doing what they call Marvel Snapshots, which is a series of specials that show the greatest characters from the Golden Age to today, all through the eyes of ordinary people. We've got Alan Brenneret, who I don't think has ever written a Marvel story, and wrote some of the best Batman stories ever. He's mostly a TV writer, but whenever he comes back and does comics, it's usually a classic story. Is going to be doing a Submariner story. Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dyer, who, I have deep abiding love for their work, doing a Human Torch story.
All right, just to cover what I talked about, yes, the word is out already. So if you're looking for a cheap copy of Thor 229, the cheapest low-grade copy on the eBays is $20. Let me just do a quick flip and go to the highest, because I can imagine near mint ones are probably, they're up there a ways. I mean, they're in the 50s. They're not totally outrageous, but again, this is something I never knew. I did not know that was his sneak peek first appearance. So see, even we can learn something.
And I would imagine if you go to Overstreet price guide from like 2 years ago, wouldn't even mentioned.
Nope.
I know that Wizard never saw it, because oh Lord, if you could imagine if Wizard saw that, the book would be worth $50,000 then.
Yeah.
The rest is all pretty much regular series. Back in the trade paperbacks, I wanted.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you getting that Road to Empire? Because I think, doesn't that tie out of the previous one shot that came out?
Yes, I talked about that one.
Oh, okay. I must have been looking for Thor.
Oh, there is another one where they're doing the plot of Civil War again.
Outlawed? Yeah, I saw that.
Outlawed.
Yeah. I'll pick that up. And oddly enough, the only True Believer one shot I'm picking up this month is the She-Hulk #1, because my copy is long gone. I do remember buying it when it first came out, because the big thing was like, Stan Lee's writing it. This is going to be great. Yeah, whatever. I mean, once I read it, that's what I thought. But what I know, I was 12 years old. Stan Lee. Oh.
Back in the trade paperbacks, the first omnibus I want to point out, on page 107, they have the cover of it, and then they have the description a few pages later. But Marvel Classic Comics, the Omnibus.
Is this the first one?
Yes.
Because I thought it was weird they're starting with Classic Comics 13. Is that
There's a reason for that.
Aha! I will sit back, because this is why we know. Let's ask the Strode. Cory, why is this Marvel Classic Omnibus starting with number 13?
All right. What happened was Classic Comics did adaptations of classic literature, and they lasted until 1971. And if you read pop culture or watch TV shows, they were kind of the original Cliff's Notes. And I imagine a lot of people now are like, what's Cliff's Notes? Cliff's Notes were these little books that would summarize a novel that you would probably have to read for school. Well, they went under in 1971. Another company started doing them. They went out of business. Marvel jumped in, snapped up the 12 issues that they created, and reprinted them as Marvel Classic Comics 1 through 12. Then they ran out, and Marvel started doing their own adaptations with issue 13. And they list all of the ones they do. Don McGregor talked about his, where he was given an unbelievably short amount of time to turn his around. This did not do well. And I think what Marvel forgot was that Crestfield, who were the printers of Classics Illustrated. By the way, Classics Illustrated is a company that's still around. They are reissuing their stuff from time to time, including the stuff they did with First Comics. But with Marvel, they didn't realize that they made most of their money through mail order, where they would print this stuff, and it would go out to newsstands and maybe sell some. But for the most part, they had a warehouse, and kids would send in a quarter to get the comic book version of a classic novel. So Marvel put these out on the stands and they died. And they didn't have mail orders set up. But it did last for 36 issues, with the first 12 being reprints from that other company. I am actually picking this up because look at the names who worked on them. Doug Minch, Chris Claremont, Bill Mantlo, Elliot S. Magan, Don McGregor, Sonny Trinidad, John Warner. You've got some Michael Golden did a few. Rico Rival did some. I seem to remember that most of the covers were by Gil Kane. But it's just this weird little thing. I do not understand why Marvel's reprinting them, but I'm darn glad they are. Because when I started reading comics, I didn't even know these existed until I started seeing them in back issue bins at comic shops. On the next page, the Ben Reilly Omnibus, Volume 2, which wraps up the story of Ben Reilly as Spider-Man.
And really, if you're not big on buying the omnibus, there's only one book really you got to dig up. It's reprinted here, 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga. So go find that in your dollar bin somewhere, and let's just put this omnibus behind us, pretend it didn't exist.
I'm amazed how well these have sold, though.
Yeah, in some ways, I wish I had the
Clone Omnibus sold really well, and these two sold really well.
Yeah, I wish I had the money to buy them. I really do. I'm not rich. I'm just.
I went back and I started reading some of it in Marvel Unlimited, and it has not aged well in any way, shape, or form. You're reading it and everything, it's very much like the X-Men, where there are all of these mysterious, super powerful beings that nobody knows anything about, who are manipulating everybody like a chess game, and nothing's ever revealed, and nothing's ever resolved, and it goes on and on and on. Right under that is Heroes Reborn, the Omnibus, which this is an odd one, because it's not really reprinting the Heroes Reborn issues. It's all of the tie-ins to it.
Yeah, I might buy the one if they did all the Heroes Reborn stuff, because I don't think I have those in my collection. And I remember they sold really well, and there was a lot of excitement for it. And, even the miniseries Return sold well. I think one of the local comic shops in town had a variant cover. And
it got screwed on it.
Yeah. The Wizard ad had the wrong phone number. Although when I went in to pick up some for my shop, he was busy selling them to shops around the nation. So I don't know what their ultimate goal, while they ended up. I wish I could find out. I mean, I think that'd be not only an interesting piece of comic history, but also, for the local comic store. But so if you guys know anything, let me know. I got Joe prizes ready to mail. Not really. We gotta finish those up. We're having problems. China's not delivering them.
We also have the fourth Conan the Barbarian Omnibus, which finishes off Roy Thomas's run. Jeez. Issue 115 was Roy Thomas's last issue, and after that, the series really took a tumble. I doubt they will put those out as omnibuses, but even if they do, I'm not buying them, because the Roy Thomas stuff was fantastic. The stuff in Savage Sword was still good after he left, but the regular series, oof. On the page next to it is an omnibus reprinting all of the Solomon Kane stories. Solomon Kane was another character of Robert E. Howard. He was a Puritan in the 1600s. 16th century, a tall, grim wanderer roving the earth to right all its wrongs. Marvel tried a few times to make this character hit like Conan. It never really took. They did a few miniseries. They did short stories. They did backups in Savage Sword. This collects all of it together in one place. And yes, I will be buying the cover by Howard Chaykin and John Buscema, not the new cover by TBA. I've never seen this TBA's art.
No, they usually recolor it anyways. Pisses off a lot of people.
They are continuing to do that X-Men collection where, okay, at Dawn of X Volume 4 reprints issue 4 of all the X-Men books. Volume 5, issue 5. Volume 6, 6. There are 3 of them, but you're also, if you just want to get the X-Men by Jonathan Hickman, putting that out as a trade. Marauders, Excalibur, on and on and on. Let's see, what else jumped out at me here? A lot of it is just collecting the series that have already been done. Okay, let's get to the back here.
I will point out, if you've never read Wolverine Enemy of the State, on page 150, they are doing a new printing of it, which was one of the most interesting stories that Mark Miller, and of course penciled by John Romita Jr., that they had done. Essentially, Wolverine's captured, brainwashed, and has switched sides. And then he's sicked on S.H.I.E.L.D. And, it gets the S.H.I.E.L.D. gets involved, Fantastic Four, the X-Men. They do eventually, well, obviously they subdue him. But of all the runs of Wolverine, this is probably one of my favorite stories that they've ever done. So it's your chance to pick it up in a new printing.
On page 141, Conan, the Book of Thoth and Other Stories. This reprints a mini-series that was done over at Dark Horse by Kurt Busiek, Len Wein, and Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones is one of my favorite horror artists, and having him do this cool Conan story, it was just a perfect match. If you've not read that or don't have it in the Conan omnibuses that Dark Horse churned out before they lost the license, I would pick that up. Your epic collections, the first one is Thor Volume 6, Into the Dark Nebula. This is right after Stan Lee left Thor. So you've got a young 19-year-old Gary Conway writing with John Buscema on Thor. I have not read these stories, so I am looking forward to finally reading them. On the other page is Iron Man War Machine, which reprints the stories leading up to Avengers: The Crossing. On the next page is a Mephisto trade paperback, which reprints a whole bunch of Mephisto stories because in one of the upcoming crossover event things, Mephisto is going to be playing a big part. He did show up in, what was that book? Champions. He showed up in Champions. They're making rumblings about him in Spider-Man. So there's something up with Mephisto if they're going to reprint all of his old appearances. And then the last one I want to point out is on page 157. Remember, they are keeping the epic collections in print, so they are reprinting Spider-Man Great Power, which reprints Amazing Fantasy 15, Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 17, and Annual Number 1. This is that's the gold. That's where everything came from. And one of the things when you read it, you'll be amazed at how much of Spider-Man was already right there. It wasn't like Fantastic Four, where it took them a while to get their feet under them, or Thor, where it took a couple years to get their feet under them. With Spider-Man, nope, by issue 2 and 3, they were already right there.
And I may actually pick this up. I have them in Essential, but that's black and white. It'd be fun to have it in a nice color format. So, as opposed to the little tiny paperback that I originally read them in.
And that was Marvel. Joe, next is Boom!
Boom! All right, let me see what we got here. Boom, boom, boom. Nope, just the normal stuff I buy. Anything for you?
No, but I do want to point out that Boom is mostly owned by Fox, although it's not Fox anymore. It's now 20th Century. And that's now owned by Disney, which owns Marvel, so wonder what's going to happen there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would keep this as a creator-owned type thing because I thought, didn't they say like something is killing the children is being optioned for something?
Yeah.
So maybe that would be a good thing for Disney to do. Just somebody comes and say, hey, I have this comic. Instead of trying to revive the epic imprint, which was that they have boom. Besides, boom's just fun to say. Boom.
And now we get to the vast majority of the rest of the stuff.
And the rest. All right, let me.
I want to point out one thing on page 230. You've got the art of the Simon and Kirby Studio and Kirby King of Comics Anniversary Edition. They say that the Kirby edition is revised and expanded. This is not the expanded version that Mark Evanier has been working on.
Okay. I know I picked this up because I texted you once. I found it for a version of it for sale at like half price. And I said, is this worth picking up? And you said, oh, yes, dear God, yes. So I do have it. It's still shrink wrapped. I haven't read it. I got a big reading list, folks.
It is fantastic, but if you already have it, do not pick this up because it says revised and expanded. They did some minor tweaks here and there. I'm actually really irritated that they do this because the revised expanded is going to be 3 times the length in number of words. And the reason it keeps getting delayed, Mark Evanier keeps finding out new stuff. Hopefully he doesn't die before he gets it done. But if you don't have these books, they are fantastic. Art of Simon and Kirby Studio goes into a lot of their history together and prints a lot of original art, stories by Simon and Kirby, and is a great introduction to all of the work they did. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out.
All right, for me, we'll do round robin. We jump back and forth. So get with the program, folks, because this is going to be the fun part. For me, the first one's on page 246 under Ahoy Comics, Billionaire Island.
Yes.
A savage satire reuniting the critically acclaimed team behind DC's The Flintstones, Mark Russell, Second Coming, and Steve Pugh. From Harley Quinn. It's an all-new creator-owned series. Welcome to Billionaire Island. Actually, I should say it like Ricardo Montalban. Welcome to Billionaire Island, where anything goes, if you can afford it. But the island's ultra-rich inhabitants are about to learn that their ill-gotten gains come at a very high price. There's extra prose, stories, illustrations, and you have 2 covers to choose from. Cory, and based on the covers, because they're not like variant covers, which one did you pick?
Oh, the Pia Guerrera.
Yeah, that's the one I picked.
Pia Guerrera's work.
Yeah, I just like that one a little bit better. So I just found that kind of interesting. What you got next on your grand list?
Page 261. Yes, there's the Archie and Sabrina book, but it's Complete Sabrina the Teenage Witch 72 to 73. I picked up the first one of these, which started from her first appearance. They are not full size. They're kind of smaller, thicker. This is 512 pages reprinting all of the stories featuring Sabrina the Teenage Witch from 72 to 73. Black and white, $10. Those were fun stories.
Yeah,
stories.
I love the first one I read. I'm definitely on the second one. Let's see. I am going to bounce us forward to page 272. And if you look on AWA Studios is must be a new, it's not pro wrestling, but it's called AWA Studios. New books. All four of them look real interesting. The one I'm definitely buying is The Resistance. J. Michael Straczynski, illustrated by Mike Deodato Jr. You had me at either name. Basically, the description is the global disaster leaves hundreds of millions dead in its wake. Shortly after, a few thousand suddenly manifest superhuman powers. Are they harbingers of more perils to come or Earth's last hope? In terms of the cover, I'm kind of drawn toward the A cover with the flaming skull Earth. The variant cover is Mike Deodato Jr., but it doesn't really sing to me that much. I would definitely go to these pages and look at all 4 of these books because, again, if my budget handles it, I would pick up all 4 of these because all 4 of these were of interest. The second one would be Hotel. That's 2 L's because you won't find it on any map. But if you happen to be driving down Route 66 late at night and you're truly desperate for shelter, sanctuary, or secrecy, you might see a battered sign on the side of the road. The Perrot Courts Hotel, where many check in but few check out. I hope they do a lot of these as graphic novels because that's kind of what I want to pick them up as. But again, check all 4 of these out. You may see something there that tickles your fancy.
This is the new company put together by Axel Alonso, former editor-in-chief at Marvel. And who was the guy who was the head of Marvel in the late 90s, early 2000s that worked with Joe Quesada? He wrote Marvel.
Oh, Bill James?
Yeah, Bill Jamis.
Call us, Bill. We don't know how to pronounce your name.
But yeah, it's those 2 guys put this company together. So, and they've got big money behind them. Big money. So look for these, look for more books from this company and more big name creators starting to show up. Let's see. What was next for me? On page 288, Clover Press. The Complete Wraith by Michael T. Gilbert. Michael T. Gilbert, mostly known for his Mr. Monster series and the work he's done for Disney, but his first thing that he did they used to call them ground level comics because they weren't undergrounds, but they weren't mainstream either in the 70s. Was in a funny animal anthology, and he did a parody of The Spirit called The Wraith. And I have never read all of these. I think I've only read 1 or 2, but I really like him. I love Michael T. Gilbert. It's got a wealth of unpublished art and photos, an intro by Michael T. Gilbert, commentary on each story, and a behind-the-scenes look at the 1970s comic book scene. $14.99. It says it's only 96 pages, but you're not going to find this stuff anywhere, and if it's got all that back matter, it's going to be worth it. And Clover Press is a new company. I don't know much about them at all. So I need to dig into that, see who are these people.
I'm already way back in the manga on page 392, Menage a Three. I know it's Menage a Trois, but they call it that. I've raved about these books. There's 4 of them out. This is volume 5. It basically follows the past of Gary, Dee Dee, and Z, their love's life. They get closer. It's like Three's Company for you guys who get the reference if you actually had the sex. The characters are fun to listen to. You actually care about them. You're rooting for them, and you scream at them when they do something they probably shouldn't have. I find myself going back and rereading these, and like I said, that's a lot. It's a lot of books here. You get like 368 pages. It's based online, so if you want to just check it out, you could probably find it online to see if it's your cup of tea. But I'm pretty much I want it in my hand. If I'm gonna have it in my menage a trois, I want it in my hand. You know what I'm saying, people? And then this is the fifth time I've done it, and I recommend this. Fortunately, they post all the other 4 available for ordering. So if you want to jump online and or tell your local comic shop you want this, you need a menage a trois. Well, first of all, make sure you know who you're saying it to, but maybe just bring it in and show them. It's Udon Entertainment out of your manga section in the previews there.
I want you to jump back to page 298.
I'm already there.
Joe, you read National Lampoon, didn't you?
When I could find it.
Now, do you remember the Appletons and Timberland Tales, the comic strips they had?
I don't.
All of them are being collected in this book called I Think He's Crazy. Cartoonist B.K. Taylor did Timberland Tales, the Appletons. It's got all of those plus some other stuff he did. The first time they've been collected. I'm excited to get that because they were these odd comic strips that were kind of, they were drawn as if it's very square normal people, and just weird odd things happened. In, it was almost like somebody had taken old Disney TV shows and just turned them 90 degrees into weirdness. So looking forward to that. I hope they're as good as I remember. Let's see. Also, Revolution, who does 2000 AD, has a new series, The Best of 2000 AD. And it's going to be 100-page comics for $5. And the Ultimate 2000...
Page 338.
Yes. The Ultimate 2000 AD mixtape has arrived. Best of 2000 AD is a brand new full-color U.S. size monthly designed for new readers. Let's see, a self-contained Judge Dredd adventure. And 3 other series. It's got stories from John Wagner, who probably wrote the Judge Dredd. Alan Moore, which means they're probably going to reprint some of his Twisted Tales. And Dan Abnett, who's started working at 2000 AD in the 90s and then did a whole bunch of work for Marvel and DC. So, hey, $5 for a 100-page comic of stuff you've never seen, characters and stories that are well-known and in most cases beloved. Jump on that. That's a great introduction to 2000 AD. And then what do we have from Titan? Titan has 2 books well, 3, but 2 comics I'm excited about. First is Ms. Tree Volume 2, Skeleton in the Closet, which reprints more of the Ms. Tree series by Max Allan Collins and Terry Beatty. It's a
you think that would be a good crossover, Ms. Tree and Mr. E from never mind.
Never mind. And I must admit, I did not get the Ms. Tree joke, pun, name for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's just hit me now. That's why I thought I'd bring it up. That's well done. Well done.
I was very excited that they're reprinting this. This is the comic that got me hooked on hard-boiled detective stories. And then up above that is The Big Hoax, which is a, national scandal unfolds as a young woman in a banana republic encounters a notorious hitman known as the Iguana, who will stop at nothing to conceal the truth. This is a foreign comic that's being reprinted here in the U.S. It's a winner of the Anglame International Comics Festival prize for scenario. I don't care. It's from hard.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
it's hard case crime.
We're just dropping award names. We have no idea what it means.
Yeah, it's hard case crime. I buy this stuff from Hard Case Crime, and they also have a little blurb there that some of the older Hard Case Crime stuff is being put out on discount, so you might want to jump on that. And then, Joe, there's an omnibus out.
What? I'm shocked. Where? What page?
On 356. Spider-Man The Venom Factor omnibus. What it is, back in the 90s, Byron Price would package Marvel novels. And when Byron was killed, he was actually hit by a bus. And when he passed away, the rights got all messy and the books went out of print. Well, Titan is bringing them back into print in these affordable packages. This one reprints the 3-novel Venom Factor story by Diane Duane, who's mostly known for her fantastic Star Trek books. I read this back in the 90s and loved it, and it'll be nice to have it in one big, thick book. They did it with the X-Men Mutant Empire a couple of months ago. If you've not read these, they're fantastic. They also announced this week that all of those books and, Joe, the Marvel novels from the late 70s, do you remember those?
I do.
They're all being released on audiobooks, and they should be available on Amazon if they aren't already.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was it for me for new stuff.
The only things I'm going to point out, these aren't things I'm buying, but I like to point out properties that you may be interested in. For example, if you like Nightmare Before Christmas, you jump over to Tokyo Pop on page 384, and they have a big spread of all their stuff. Some of it's selling out, so if you really like it, that's a good place to go. For you Star Wars fans, go to Viz Media on page 394, and they're doing a book I'm very tempted to get called The Legends of Luke Skywalker. Essentially, Luke Skywalker across the galaxy, they've heard his name, but not many people have met him. Some call him a merciless war criminal. Others say he's not human, but a droid. Is he man? Is he myth? But these are stories that'll be told from people who have encountered the elusive Skywalker and have an unforgettable adventure to share. I think that's kind of a very interesting premise. And there's a few other mangas available. Fortunately, Viz mentions them now, but this one actually looks real interesting. And I may snap this one up just because, a lot of times I do look through the entire previews. I read all the descriptions. I look at the manga. Manga for me is always tough because it's like One Punch Man Volume 19. Okay, I've read a few One Punch Man. I enjoy it, but how many are there? Or is it still ongoing? I mean, I've read Oh My Goddess from Dark Horse. I still have no idea if the series finished or Dark Horse just lost the rights.
No, they finished it.
Oh, okay, so it's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it confuses me. And sometimes it's just titillating. Like I think it was a World's Harem. There's one guy left and he has to breed with all these super beautiful women. And of course he doesn't want to because he's vowed to wait for his girlfriend, has no idea if she's alive, or this other guy, he's got these weird monsters that they've made peace with, and they're allowed to coexist in society. One rule: you cannot have sex with them. Well, of course, these monsters are gorgeous, except for the tentacles and weird appendages and things like that, and they're horny. And he happens to have 3 of them in his apartment. I never know where to start. We do have one friend of the show, Lyndon, who has never come on to talk about manga. So maybe for 2020, he'll come on and explain to us this weird thing called manga. Because, like I said, I go through it because there's certain things I'm looking for. But I never know where to begin.
On the flip page, I was looking through the ads for the toys, and they have, oh, look, there is a Spider-Gwen Nendroid. And I looked at it and said, oh, that's cute. I might want to get that. So I go to page M75, which is where they have it. And it's okay. I'm going to flip back and go through.
Where is it? Oh, there it is.
$95! Oh!
Well, yeah, but you'll get a discount, of course. It might be, $92.42.
$95?
I know. I have such a problem with toys. I mean, when I had Hot Comics, toys were $5.99, and now that they're $20.99, I don't open $20.99 toys. I mean, I will if I really want to, but I mean, I've got a couple. I'm looking at. I got my Weird Al Yankovic one that I paid $24. I'm not opening that thing. And if I buy a toy, I want to open it and pose it and at least enjoy it. But yeah, I am kind of shell shocked at some of the prices here. Or in the case of what I can afford, even on page 56, they have the reaction figures coming out. And they're all like $18, $20 a piece. Ugh. I'm just too old. I'll go dig through old bargain bins, see if I can find something fun to pose.
And yet I have no problem with, a reprint of 70s classic adaptations of novels. Yeah, I'll pay $75 for that.
I remember picking those up in the quarter bins.
We have email.
We do?
Yes.
Cool, let's hear it.
Our friend Travis is going through our old episodes and has been sending us notes on them.
Oh, bless you.
So I have one here called Cuss Struttin' Hound Dog, which is probably a great name for a band.
It is. Or yeah, let's go with a band.
On episode 97, Joe spoke about Deathmate without vomiting. Is there an outstanding Joe prize for this phenomenon?
I would say yes. However, until we get the delivery of Joe prizes, I know I've got about 2 or 3 at least left out. So yeah, send us your address via the email, and once we get those things together, we will definitely send them out.
Then episode 100, he says, a nice episode. I don't even remember what we did for episode 100.
For one vaguely.
I don't even remember what we did for episode, did the one before this one. Nice, neat to hear about Nexus number 3 coming with a record, as the record was a radio drama of the comic. I bought the cassette tape of the Max. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the cassette tape of the Max was the first to do something like that. Well, it did not come with the comic. It was a dramatization of the first couple issues of the Max. I recently sold my copy for $80.
I know, because nobody bought those things when they came out. We had them at the shop. I remember I had a copy, and I don't even think I ever opened it.
He does say he's sorry he couldn't spend that $80 at Joe's eBay store. It went toward his first DCBS order. Well, congratulations on joining DCBS.
Good man. I like this guy. I haven't asked the Strode.
Oh my gosh!
Not from
it's
me.
Been
it's
forever.
From
I don't know if I can do it.
You're gonna have to, because it's from one of our listeners.
Really?
I have an arch enemy on this show, it has got to be Mr. Twist Hula Hoop Mozik Chong. I don't know. I'm almost scared to get anything else operated on just to see what he's going to send me. But are you ready, Cory? Do you have your thinking caps on?
Yes.
Are your thinking grenades primed and ready?
Yes, and I'm ready to win that shiny new dime.
Oh, hang on. Let me see. Oh. Well, I gotta go get some. I got a couple dull ones. Maybe I'll give you 2 nickels.
Okay.
Ask the Strode. Cory, what can you tell us about Defenders issue number 45 that was dedicated to the members of Rush?
David Kraft was a big rock and roll guy. In fact, he came from the field of rock and roll journalism before he got into comics. And he had references to the bands he liked, which were mostly in the field of progressive rock. If you read his Defenders run, there are all sorts of references to Blue Oyster Cult, which is actually where I heard about the band Blue Oyster Cult before they started playing Blue Oyster Cult on the radio. But in that issue, he took lyrics from the Rush song Twilight Zone for the big stone statue of Dr. Strange that was spouting nonsense. And here's the thing. Rush was reading comics at the time. And when they came to New York, they got a hold of him at Marvel and wanted him to come backstage. And Kraft has actually been talking about it recently. He showed the pictures that they took backstage with Rush at that concert. So that's what I can tell you about that issue of the Defenders. Drawn by Keith Giffen, if I remember right. Hello?
No, I'm listening.
Oh.
Sometimes I just got to shut up and listen, because you are a vast font of interesting knowledge.
There actually was a Rush comic that came out a few years ago. They had their final album was another concept album. What was it called? Clockwork something. I gotta look that up. Clockwork Angels. And there was the album. There was a novel written by Kevin Anderson, who's written a ton of Star Wars novels, and an adaptation of the novel as a comic. You know who doesn't do adaptations, Joe?
Well, all I can say is if you got $150, you could get yourself the Max comic book soundtrack 1993 cassette tape, which, if you'd have bought it from our previous friend, you would have you got a steal on it.
No, it's these guys that were sponsors. Normally in this space we have advertising, but for the rest of the year in the spirit of giving, instead we're giving our advertising time over to fundraisers to help people who are in need. And the best place to help comic book creators who are in need is the heroinitiative.org. The Hero Initiative raises money and helps creators with medical issues, finding work, fighting homelessness. These are comic creators who may be switching careers, may have fallen on hard times, or they may have worked in the business for a long time. And as you know, comic book companies, everything there is you're paid by the page. It's not a salary. It's not benefited. It's not with a retirement. So this is how we can help the creators who've made our lives better by their work. Head on over to the heroinitiative.org in order to donate or buy items. Artist Tom Lyle, who drew tons of comics over the years, including a run on Spider-Man during the Spider-Clone saga, helped create the Tim Drake Robin, passed away recently, leaving his spouse with medical bills. You can donate by going to GoFundMe.com and looking up Tom-Lyle to donate to help pay off those medical bills from his hospital stay. If you are a wrestling fan, you know who ODB is. ODB is a Minnesota gal who got out of wrestling and got into the food truck business. One morning she woke up and her food truck had burned to the ground. She is running a fundraiser at Indiegogo, so go to Indiegogo.com, put in help ODB get cooking again, and you can purchase her wonderful sauces, autographed pictures. All funds go toward helping her buy a new food truck so she can start her business again. These are people who need your help. If you know someone who needs help or has a fundraiser, please let us know by sending an email to solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. And after the first of the year, when we get back to regular ads, you can buy an ad too. Again, it's solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Thanks. And now that Joe's back, we're cranking up again on podcast. Matter of fact, tomorrow I'm recording with Adam Vermillion for the Fantastic Forecast.
Fun. And he's got his own going too.
Yeah, he's got For the Love of Comics going. But I do all of these. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts for you. There's, of course, Crazy Comics and Stories, where myself and Crazy Joe Ryder get together once a week to talk comics. We review comics, we talk about upcoming comics, we talk about comics history. Anything that has to do with comics, we're going to talk about. We also have Series in Review, where we review series and kind of give a DVD commentary of past comics that we've enjoyed. There is also Solitaire Rose Radio. Solitaire Rose Radio is my solo show where I discuss upcoming comics, past comics, comics history, and interview comics creators. These are all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. There's also the podcast I'm proudest of. That's Novelcast, where I take the novels that I have written and turn them into audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. Over at Bad Advice, myself, Dan Moore, and Wolfie B. Bad take your questions and give you bad advice. It's at badadvice.solitairerose.com. Now, don't think that I'm doing all the podcasts, because there's also Scrabbling Across the West by Dave Coffell and Stephanie Coffell. Dave is a musician and Stephanie is his wife. They travel the country performing music and playing Scrabble over at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. And finally, the newest member of the Solitaire Rose Radio group, that's Fantastic Forecast, where myself and host of For the Love of Comics, Adam Vermillion, go over the series The Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's available at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. If you would like to advertise on any of these podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he steals all of my pop drops that I bought at Minnesota's largest candy store.
I love pop drops.
No, it's Joe, what's going on the eBays?
You know what I love even better are lemon Tootsie Roll pops. If anybody can find them, let me know. I've things have been cranking pretty good on the eBays. I mean, like I said, my my method of just being the lowest price person there is it seems to be paying off pretty good. I am still slugging through this massive collection I got from Pat of his Dynamite magazines, and I've got to admit I'm getting pretty close to having them online. I've got a few guys who have contacted me from the show and asked about certain ones that I either had or didn't have. What I find real interesting is some of the Dynamites came with Topps baseball cards, and those guys really, they're looking for certain cards. They're all different. So you may have a Dynamite magazine with a certain set of baseball cards that are different from another one. A lot of those have sold. Unless you think I'm taking advantage of poor Pat, I actually took him out for pizza a couple days ago. He's doing really well. He's still recovering from his surgery. I didn't even get a chance to ask him. I said, and maybe Cory, when you have a piece of your body removed, do they put anything in its place, or do they just let your body swallow that space up?
They just let your body swallow that space up.
Oh, well, apparently a kidney hurts, so don't do your kidneys if you can help it. He's doing fine though. I'm ringing a bell because when somebody was talking earlier about those floppy magazines, they actually had a few of them in the Dynamite magazines where like one was like a cardboard record, and then you're supposed to flatten it out and place it. It was like Disco Dynamite. I almost want to play it just for the hell of it. And a few other floppy records of what's the name of the guy? In all the Dynamite magazines, they had a Count Morbidus. I get it. And he always had a 2-page puzzle that I could never figure out. Even now to this day, I'm not that smart to do it. But he had a floppy record. I'm almost done getting these Dynamites on. So that's really about it. I mean, you can take a look on the eBays. There's tons of stuff. I've been repricing things. One thing you can do as a listener of this here show is if you see something you're interested, say you happen to sell your Max cassette tape from 1993 and you have just extra cash burning a hole, and you happen to see something on my eBays you're interested in, send me a note, say you're a listener of the show, and when you do that, I have the ability to make an offer to you. So if I took down a lot of my make an offers because, when I'm the lowest guy on eBay, I'm not prone to, want to do a better offer. Or if I've got something that's like, again, $150 signed comic and you're going to offer me 10, no. But if you say you're a listener, I can send you an offer. Everything I sell is pretty much with free shipping. I got a few ones I'm trying to convert. So just a little trivia there. And of course, anybody that buys anything that listens to this here show, I always toss in a little extra something just to have some fun. Not a Joe Prize yet. I'm still trying to get them manufactured. I tell you, I might have to switch manufacturers because, I want something special. And or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I just write Joe on a piece of paper and send it to you. Hey, I hadn't thought of that. Anyways, crazy, Krayz on 24/7, even though I may not be. And like I said, I'm going to finish up this pile of Dynamites, and I put a few other things on. I found a couple books, some stuff on clearance at the various shops, Silver Age book that I didn't know I had. So you never know what'll surface there. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I use the Valiant jump drives as keychains.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
It's freaking a geeking. Joe, what you freaking on?
I took a visit to the aforementioned Disney kiosk at the Target stores. Disney's doing kind of a little store within a store concept where I don't know if were you ever at the Disney store at Mall of America, Cory?
Oh, yeah.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's there anymore, though.
No.
And Disney's bringing it back through Target, and they only did 25 at Christmas season, and they set one up in the Twin Cities way out at Maple Grove. So right before the storm, when we had the 9 below temperature, I fired up the old car and drove out there. I had things to buy at Target. We're just finishing up, getting ready for the storm, and I always like looking through the clearance section and things like that. I visited it, and I was a little underwhelmed. Not really for me, but if my daughters were of age, younger daughters, oh, they would have a field day at this thing because all the Disney properties are set. The dresses, the toys, the DVDs, they're all in one spot for the kids just to go nuts. It kind of the same feeling I had when I went to the Disney stores with them out at the old Mall of America. Kind of like the feeling I might have if I actually visit Disney when I go on my vacation in a couple of weeks. Probably won't because it's like $180 a day to visit. Although I did tell my wife, much as I could probably go to the Star Wars store and pick up enough swag to bring home to pay for the trip if we wanted to go that route, but I don't think we've decided. The other thing, speaking of freaking, Cory, have you seen The Mandalorian yet?
Not yet. I've seen the first episode.
No, I'm not talking that. I'm talking about the caramelized Target version of the toy.
No.
Because you probably won't. If you did, I'm torn between saying buy me one because I want one for myself versus buy them all and we'll flip them on eBay for $50 a piece. Because every Target store in town got a box. They're all gone. And not everybody's being a greedy SOB. There's a group online called Minnesota Toy Posse. They're really cool. Usually they're like, hey, this store got them. And then, of course, by the time you get there, they're gone because somebody's snapping them up. There's hundreds of them on eBay being sold at $50 a piece. I just want one to open. And, or maybe it's just because I want one because it's hot. Timing is everything. There's been times where, I just found this at this store. I said, dude, I was just there a half hour earlier and I didn't get them. So it's just kind of a freak. I mean, it's just part of the hunt, but I don't know what I'm torn between. I used to be one of the greedy Gus's. Now I'm not. I just want to play with the damn thing. So that was the other reason I wanted to get to the comic show today. I bet you would have found somebody, and they're $25 a piece. So, you want to charge $35, whatever. I don't care. But, that's pretty much it for freaking. How about you, Mr. Strode? What you be freaking on?
First thing I want to point out that I am freaking on is I am a huge Rush fan, and last week, Neil Peart, the drummer of Rush, lyricist, passed away. Still pretty upset about it, kind of like when Prince died. The only thing about it was he had said that Rush was done. They weren't going to go on tour anymore, and he spent the last few years with his wife and daughter. But there has been an outpouring of people talking about Rush, posting about Rush, talking about Rush on radio stations, and it's one of those things that every so often it reminds me that we should probably tell the people who are important to us while they're alive rather than, oh, he passed away. Here's all the wonderful things he did. I think it'd be, hey, Marv Wolfman's still alive, still doing stuff. If you liked Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, send him an email. Say, hey, I've loved your work. Really want to let you know that your work meant a lot to me over the years.
And I even recognized your cameo in it. I was super proud of myself that I recognized him.
The other thing, HBO did a Watchmen series, and it was run by writer Damon Lindelof. And after the first season was done, Lindelof said, if they could go ahead and continue, but I am not interested in doing another season. And HBO said, well, without the creator of the show, we don't feel it would be right to do any more seasons of Watchmen. I'm going to let the irony of that sink in right now. And
now I have a question. Have you seen any of this?
I have not. I am behind on everything because
me too. Me too. I did. One of my friends online who watched it ahead of me, and to be fair, I told him about The Boys, so it's all a matter of what you choose. I asked him, knowing what you just said, is it worth watching? And he said yes.
Oh, everybody I've talked to said it was fantastic.
Yeah, and even some people are saying, even if they don't do another season, this is a good ending because it leads into, I don't know if they mean the movie or the comic series or whatever. So take that for what it's worth. It's on my list. I've got a few other ones to finish.
You just made the list.
It's on the list.
And now, Joe, what you geeking on?
Well, I was geeking on the fact that we had a big ass snowstorm, and area plows are using Skittles now to maintain the roads. Not really. I am happy that I stayed in.
Do I have to cut out this like I had to cut out your lie about the post-credit scene on Star Wars?
No, but in all seriousness, I am glad I stayed in because in 11 hours today, there were 341 vehicle crashes. Some of it from blowing snow, some of it from that little layer of ice you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, I saw cars in the ditch all the way home from my lunch date today.
I'm like, forget it. I ain't going anywhere till that sun shines, and hopefully tomorrow. Fortunately, I did have a snow watch. So the first movie my wife and I chose was Casablanca. We pulled out my 50th anniversary DVD set and had the Blu-ray, and of course we always watch all the extras. In this case, Carrot Blanca. Yes, it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And again, this is just one of the classics I thoroughly enjoy. In a moment of serendipity, a friend of mine posted that they were watching the Maltese Falcon, which, to my chagrin, I don't have a copy of. Did Criterion ever do a collection?
No, but there is a collection that has the all three versions of that novel, because there was one done in the early 30s, and then a second one done a couple of years after that with a different name, and then the version with Humphrey Bogart.
Interesting. I'll have to peek at that because, I really want to get that. The next one we watched yesterday. This is the one that came out over the summer that I really wanted to watch and never did, where a guy, something happens, and he wakes up to find he's the only guy that remembers the Beatles songs. And he starts performing them and recording them as his own and has worldwide success with it. And I found it an absolutely charming, delightful movie. A lot of fun to watch, especially if you're a Beatle fan. A lot of references to different things. Went places I didn't expect it to go. Again, I wasn't looking for the meaning of life, but for what it was a lot of fun. And of course, afterwards, I read all the background information on it to see, what did the Beatles think of it? What did they like? Did you see this one at all, Cory?
I have not seen it yet.
It's fun. I mean, don't like I said, go in with just popcorn on and slippers on and just enjoy it. So now there is one, and I gotta wait because I gotta find it here. Did you hear one called The Report?
I don't know.
FBI agent Daniel Jones performs an exhaustive investigation into the CIA's use of torture on suspected terrorists in the aftermath of 9/11 attacks, because the CIA adopted new interrogation techniques. This was a American drama film done last year, directed by Scott Z. Burns. And what got my attention on it was that Adam Driver, old Kylo Ren himself is in it. And this is based on a real-life event. The staffer, Daniel Jones, is a real-life person. And the Senate Intelligence Committee investigated the CIA's use of torture, and through this guy's persistence, ended up reporting a 6,700-page report. Bottom line, we done wrong on this one, folks. I'm not going to get into it because it's very political, it's very polarizing. But as a political scientist, somebody who studied history, we were on the wrong side in this one. If you want to talk to me about it, maybe give me a call. I don't care. But I do recommend everybody should watch this because it's just like the one we talked about. Oh, again, a Netflix show. I can't think of the name of it, where they based on the Pentagon Papers. Whatever. Well, I'll look that one up too. It's just one of those things. This is real life, folks, and you might have your head buried in the latest omnibus, but this is happening, and you want to know why people want to bomb and attack us. This is probably why. And as it's based on real events, it's just interesting the way it wound out. And if it wasn't for fumbling on behalf of the CIA's, where they actually broke into the Senate office. Think about that. The CIA broke into the United States Senate. It's our own Secret Service is breaking into our own representative government. And what they were after was this guy, Daniel Jones. He removed some top secret material that he shouldn't have. And really, had the CIA not screwed up, and when the Department of Justice came in, they're like, well, what are we going to do about this Daniel Jones? He said, well, no, we're investigating you because you broke into a Senate office and stole and hacked their computers. A lot of this came out in the news. You may remember John McCain on the floor of the Senate denouncing it, saying from a guy who himself had been tortured, saying what we did to these detainees didn't work and was wrong. So again, I'm outraged just from watching it, but it was interesting to watch, not only to see Adam Driver in a different role, but kind of, I don't need Deathmate to vomit in my mouth anymore. I just need to know what is going on. And this is all real recent history, folks. So again, put your head in the sand or go dig it up. It's the report. It's on Amazon Prime if you got it. So not everything was angry, get me seething type stuff. I did watch the Next Planet thing. We talked about the Nova one where they went into the outer planets. Now they went into the inner planets. And again, it was fascinating. When they got to Mercury, they found it infinitely more fascinating than it deserves to be. They come to the conclusion that Mercury did not form where its current orbit is. It was probably some type of protoplanet that got knocked out of alignment by something and ended up where it is, because there's no way it was formed that close to the sun. Any debris would have been sucked into the sun itself. So we're just, there's so much we don't know. And we're just talking our own solar system. God help us when we get outside it. The remainder one is the one on the gas giants. And I don't know if it's out yet, but I've got my DVR set to pick up any novas. So you did mention the CW Crisis. I did catch the final two. A lot of fun. I hope they release this all as a DVD set. It would be just fascinating to watch, A, without the commercials, and B, just have everything lined up. And who knows if they got any behind the scenes stuff that they could re-add. I don't want to talk about it mainly because Cory hasn't seen it, and there are so many cameos that it's a joy to watch. I mean, there are things that you will watch that you'll see the cameo, you remember the actor, and you just go, hoo. The only freaking I have on it is they didn't have Linda Carter in it as Wonder Woman. She has been on Supergirl. And do you think, Cory, do you remember what happened at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah, it was, it's all one Earth now. There's only one Earth.
That happened on Crisis? Sort of. Because the multiverse after Crisis is still there. And there's a new CW show coming up called Starfire, which will take place on Earth 2. The CW worlds that are together now, Black Lightning, Arrow's over with, DC Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Flash, they're all called Earth Prime. And so the Starfire one is going to take place, Stargirl is going to take place on Earth 2, which I thought was very interesting. And also is like, maybe we might see some JSA, JLA crossovers coming up. There are some other cameos I'm dying to talk about, but I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it. If you can, go to the CW app. I believe you can just download them and watch them for free. CW, get that sucker out on DVD. I've got my money here ready to buy right away. And just load it with extras because I'm geeking on this stuff already. As far as Kickstarters go, I was surprised I got the 2 outstanding ones over the break that I was waiting for. The first one was, is it Michael Kingston? Headlocked? The guy who does...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he sent out his stuff, which was a lot of fun. I'm dying to get into it. It's all autographed and everything. Pro wrestling stories done by the pro wrestlers themselves. And then the guy who Cory always helps me with the name from Arsenic Nullerby, Doug
Paskevich.
Paskevich. He's just had, the poor guy's just had a hard time getting this done, but he finally sent his book to me. He sent a lot of the extras. He even sent a little note saying, "I'm sorry I didn't get all the stuff going." Dude, I'm just happy you were able to take care of it. I hope you can get this out of your hair, so to speak. He's follically challenged like me, and just get on to producing more of the dark, twisted humor that I absolutely love from you. Still have not read any comics. I will read them by next week because next week is our review show, I believe.
Why, yes, it is.
I got to have something to review. But in the meantime, Cory, what are you geeking on?
I got all kinds of stuff. First off, Joe, you know how I have 57 jobs.
I thought that was the Heinz sauce.
But one of them has been renewed till 2023. That's right. All Elite Wrestling was renewed with a new contract by TNT. Now, when they started, they had a deal where TNT would pay for the production and they would split the ad revenue. Well, the show has been so successful that TNT is now paying them a license fee rather than the you keep half the ads and we keep half the ads deal. So there was a significant raise in how much money AEW is making, and TNT has asked for a second All Elite Wrestling show. It will not be AEW Dark, which is their show on YouTube, because All Elite says they want that to still be out there on YouTube. They want to have a YouTube presence. And Joe, I know you don't have TNT, right?
No, I don't.
You can watch All Elite Wrestling on YouTube. They have a new hour-long show every Tuesday night. But if All Elite Wrestling got renewed till 2023, I will still be writing it up and recording a podcast afterward till 2023 for PWInsiderElite.com.
Sweet. Do you think they'll ever have wrestling figures based on these guys?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They are working on licensing deals. Yeah, there's going to the T-shirts and other. They don't have like toy figures. They have like collectible figures that are already available over at ProWrestlingTees.com, and neither one of those people are paying us. So what the hell? Yeah.
Because I just noticed, and again back to previews, but there was a couple pro wrestling figures that came out. The the Hero Collector by Eagle Moss is doing WWE figures where you buy the figure and it comes with a magazine based on them. And then if you're New Japan Pro Wrestling has their wave of figures coming in.
Yes.
But being imports, they're like $45 a pop.
I know.
But, sweet bejesus, are they detailed? They come with different heads. They're not due, I think, until November, if I'm reading right, or maybe I'm reading it wrong. But yeah, that's so. Again, these are out of my price range, but the other ones may not be. So if you see when they're coming, let me know. I mean, as if I don't have enough ways to spend my money.
Publishers Weekly had their rundown of book sales last year, and while a lot of books were down, graphic novels were up 16%, the highest, fastest growing category in bookstores. But comics are dying.
Yeah. Maybe the monthlies are, actually I don't even think the monthlies are, but graphic novels are still big. They're huge.
And growing. And
we were trendsetters.
And more companies are getting into it. The big publishers are getting into it because that's where the growth is. So if you're a comic creator, You might not want to say, oh, I need to get in at Marvel and DC. No, you might want to look at HarperCollins. You might want to look at Scholastic. You might want to look at these other companies that publish books that go into bookstores and Target and Walmart. I just want to keep going back to this. The latest book of Dogman, which I bet if you went into a comic shop and asked most of the people there buying their comics every week, they don't know what Dogman is. 5 million copy print run. I had box day this week. It was about a week late, but that's okay because I had in it a book that I ordered a year ago from Tomorrow's called Dingbat Love. And that's a goofy name, but what it is, it prints stuff that DC never printed from Jack Kirby. It has the entire first issue of True Divorce Cases. Most of that is in pencil form because it was killed before it got further along in the process. The first issue of Soul Love, which is a love comic with African-American protagonists in it. That one is fully inked and colored. And then 2 issues of Dingbats of Danger Street, which was a Kid Gang comic because DC said, nothing's selling. Well, these Kid Gang comics that Simon and Kirby did back in the 40s sold really well. Why not create a new one? Joe Simon, I mentioned it earlier, created the Green Team, which were a team of kid billionaires who went around the world solving problems. Kirby did a standard kid gang for the Dingbats of Danger Street. And the reason he picked Dingbats is because at the time, All in the Family was huge, and Archie calling Edith a dingbat. There were T-shirts about dingbats and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, the name's obviously out there. Neither one set the world on fire, but Kirby had already done 3 issues of the Dingbats of Danger Street when they said, we'll just put it in this first issue series and see if it sells. It's full of behind-the-scenes stuff, pencil pages compared with the fully inked pages. Some of the pages were inked recently by D. Bruce Berry and Mike Royer, who were inking Kirby back at the time. Stuff by Mark Evanier about what was going on behind the scenes, because at the time Evanier was Kirby's assistant. Steve Sherman was another of Kirby's assistants. Just a fantastic book. Fantastic book. And if you're a Kirby fan, it's a must-buy. I talked a little about 2000 AD Best of. 2000 AD and Revolution Publishing is really making a big push. Last year they had that blurb that we were confused about where it's, all the Judge Dredd case files are going to be at a special low price. And we never saw them at that special low price anywhere. But they're going to get more aggressive about the U.S. market by printing trade paperbacks of the classic Dredd stories, such as The Cursed Earth, the early stories about the Death, Judge Death, a lot of the Brian Boland stuff and the Ian Gibson stuff, so that people are more familiar with the character. They're really going to try and make a push into the U.S. market, and I think that's a cool thing because there's this, 2000 AD started in 1977. That's 40 years worth of stuff that here in the U.S. we kind of know a little about. And so many incredible creators worked with them. Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, Warren Ellis, who's who of great comic creators. So I'm excited about that stuff. And even though this month's previews didn't have a lot in it that got me really hyped, the fact that there all these new companies like AWA, Revolution coming into the U.S., they're really sort of going to put a kind of a shot of adrenaline into the comic book shop market, as well as the regular comic market, the regular book market. We didn't even have time for me to go over the fact that they've released all the information about the best-selling comics of the year and December. And so we'll have to talk talk about that at some future time because, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about comic books for over 2 hours.
It's a lot to talk about.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Well, Cory, what is the difference between Iron Man and Aluminum Man?
You can't press your shirts with Aluminum Man?
Close. Iron Man stops the villains, but Aluminum Man just foils their plans. Hit my music.
Funk is on a roll. Funk is on a roll. Hey, yo. Can somebody call my mama? It's about to get funky up in here. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, Somebody call my mama. Somebody call my mama. Somebody call my mama. What you say? Somebody please call my mama. Somebody call my mama. What you say now? What you got? What you got for me?
We done, bitches!